Welcome to the 9th session for Virtual Bootcamp. We're happy to have you join us today. When we were planning out the sessions for Bootcamp, this was one topic that I had some ideas on, things I wanted to share, but I have to say, as I started putting this together, there were just, the content just continued to grow. There's so many great ways to make yourself more marketable. There's so many things that you can be doing to set yourself apart when you're in that job search. So I'm excited to be here with you today. My name is Kelly Ebert, and I am a career coach in the Houston Center for Career Readiness. And we will get started with our topic today. Before we do that, we'll go over some housekeeping things. So please mute your microphone and don't use your video just in order to improve session quality. This will be recorded and posted on the Easton Center website. And if you have any questions, just jump in and ask anytime. You can do that through the chat box feature or just unmute yourself and speak up. So let's talk a little bit about the things that we're going to cover today and our learning objectives. Again, this is just to brainstorm, to think through things that you can do to make yourself more marketable. And the first thing on our list is things you can learn about the job search process and the individual pieces of the job search process. There is a lot to know and a lot of different ways that you can improve your skills and get better at the job search process. And we're going to go through some of those and talk about things you can be doing just to up your chances for success. Then we're going to talk about job shadowing. My team is all on mute, but they're probably chuckling right now because it's kind of our team joke that job shadowing is my favorite topic. I love job shadowing. And so we'll take a deep dive on what that means and what it can look like for you and then how it can help you. We'll look at some trainings and certifications, different ways that you can pursue those to really give yourself an edge when it comes to finding that first job and jobs after that. These are things that can help you throughout your career as well. Networking is next on our list. That's a topic that we've hit on several times throughout boot camp just because it's so important, but we'll talk about some of the things that maybe haven't been addressed yet and ways that you can do that given the current situation where networking would be virtual. And then finally, we'll talk about managing expectations. So again, given this current situation, it changes things a little bit. And so we will talk about what you should expect and how you should consider the dilemma of whether you should take, just a job that's not exactly an ideal job. It wasn't exactly what you had in mind, or whether you should hold out for something that's more in line with what you want to do long term. So we'll take a deep dive into that question. And then again, at the end, we'll talk about questions and answers if you have any. As always, we love to tie everything we do to our competencies. We're big believers in our competencies, and it really is the structure and the backbone around really everything that we do. So there's several that go along with the things that we're talking about today. The first one is self-explanatory, just building networks and how important that is to you. The second one is managing ambiguity. So again, the job search process can be challenging anyway. So there's a lot to know. The good news is nothing's hard about it, but there is a lot to know and a lot of different ways you can get better. But there are also, a lot of ups and downs. It can be exciting when you find that job that you want to apply to, and then it can be discouraging when it doesn't work out. The job search takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of being intentional and being thorough. So there's a lot to it, and that's just in regular times. And so given what's going on now, this just adds another layer of uncertainty. And so the description here of manages ambiguity is operating effectively even when things are not certain or the way forward is not clear. And I think that couldn't be more relevant to where we're at right now. And so managing ambiguity and being comfortable with navigating that uncertainty and using it as a way to develop the skill of managing ambiguity and developing that in yourself at comfort level with uncertain situations, that's a great ability to have. And so that comes into play a lot with the job search process in today's current situation. Business insight, that's one, I just added kind of at the last minute that really plays into when we're going to talk about job shadowing, and we'll talk about how that coincides with job shadowing and kind of what that means. And then self-development and demonstrating self-awareness. Really, those two things together sum up everything that we're talking about today. So just, being self-aware, knowing what skills and abilities you bring to the table, but then also being able to recognize some of your weaknesses and think about ways that you can strengthen those weaknesses, things that you can do to develop yourself and develop your skills and abilities to really enhance things that maybe aren't a strong suit for you, and just make yourself more marketable and well-rounded. So we've read lots of articles recently. This is one I came across last week. The title is Students Among Workers Getting Stiffed as Many Internships Canceled. Here's how they can stay competitive. It had a great quote in it from Jeffrey Moss, who is the CEO and founder of Parker Dewey, and we'll talk about Parker Dewey here in just a little bit. But Moss at Parker Dewey said, "This is a time to be resourceful. Companies will look at what you did during this time period. How did you better yourself? How did you take advantage of the situation?" That is so specific to exactly what we're talking about today, just using this time as an opportunity to get creative and think outside the box and think about ways that you can really enhance what you have to offer a potential employer. So let's dive into our first one. So this is about research and preparation when it comes to the job search, and just the things that you can do to better understand the job search process and sharpen your skills and your abilities with the things that are elements of that job search process. So the first thing is Bootcamp. If you're tuning into this, then you already recognize the opportunity to learn more and grow and develop and become more aware of different things. So good for you for taking advantage of that. The next one is LinkedIn. We've talked a lot about LinkedIn. Savannah did a great job of stepping us through all the different elements of LinkedIn and the ways you can use it. It truly is one of the most important tools for your job search. And like Savannah suggested, just having a presence on LinkedIn every day, learning, reading articles, connecting with people, seeing what jobs are out there, seeing what companies are doing, how they're reacting to current events, just pursuing LinkedIn Learning. All the things that are available on LinkedIn are just all things that are going to enhance your knowledge and enhance your ability to perform well in an interview and later on in your job. Next is mock interviews. So this is one we just can't emphasize enough. That practice really does matter when it comes to mock interviews. Again, there's a lot to know about interviewing, and there's a lot of things to remember and a lot of things to know that you need to keep in mind and communicate and all those things. And, that's where career coaches come in, and that's our job, is to understand the interviewing process, to stay in touch with our recruiters and know what they're looking for, to know what stands out for them, and then to be able to relay that information to you. And mock interviews are a great opportunity for us to do that. I know that mock interviews must be really intimidating, and we hear that from a lot of our students, but just keep in mind that it's what we love to do. We're here to support you and to pour into you and to really make a difference in your job search process. We want to help you with that. So it's interesting to me when we have our BATM 3111 course, and mock interviews are actually a required assignment as a part of that course. And it's funny how often at the end of those required mock interviews, I hear some variation of the statement, I actually really learned a lot from that. And they act very surprised that they learned a lot from that. Maybe I should be offended by that, but I'm not. I actually take that as a compliment, that maybe they came in not expecting to learn something, but they actually did. And again, we do this for a living. This is our job, to help you. And we love the opportunity to do that. And we know that we've got a lot of information to offer you that can truly make a difference. The next thing is spreadsheet notes. This is something that Abby mentioned in one of her sessions, just setting yourself up with a framework to manage your job search. So a spreadsheet that you keep a running track of companies that you've reached out to, and dates and times, and where you're at in the process. Notes as you research companies. You're going to be researching a ton of companies, hopefully, And so just managing that information and keeping notes and keeping yourself organized so that you're able to stay on top of all the different parts of your job search process. And then finally, career maps. I'm excited that I get to be the one to share career maps with you. It is a new tool for the Easton Center. It's actually been in the works for many months. Savannah has poured tons of work into these career maps, but they just went on our website just this week. So I'm excited to share with you a little bit more about our career maps and how they can help you. So let's take a look at one. This is our finance career map. So these maps are, again, on our website, and they're under the career readiness tab. And we have a career map for each of our majors. So each of these kind of takes a deep dive into one major. So let's look at some of the topics that are on this career map. So the starts with where finance fits in the world and just a description of that. Technical skills, career competencies, industries that are relevant to that major, a day in the life type of work, so just a brief description of different areas of finance, and then some career progressions, and we've included salaries on that, so you can really get a good idea of what some different career paths might look like. And then sample entry level job titles. So this is going to be a really helpful resource for you as well. And then on the back side, we've got a potential employer sample. So this is a list of companies that recent OSU grads have gone to work for. And then professional organizations that are affiliated with this major, and job resources, career resources. So there's all kinds of great information. So you might be asking, how could I use this? How could I use these career maps to really start my job search? So let's take a look back. I'm going to flip back to the sample entry-level job titles. So what we find with our students, a lot of times when they go to a job posting board and they're asked for a keyword, they put in their major. And we know that they are limiting themselves so much by just entering the name of their major, because that doesn't bring up all the jobs that are associated with that industry or with that field. And so this is a great way to start a keyword search list. Just keeping a running list of keywords that you can enter when you're looking at job posting boards to make sure that you're finding all of the opportunities that are out there for you. And then, beyond that, as you read different job descriptions and you notice words or phrases, add to your keyword list and keep a running list of things that you can enter in those keyword searches so that you're really maximizing your exposure to the opportunities that are relevant to you. Again, I mentioned the potential employer sample. This is a great place to start research. You could spend so much time really starting with this list. So looking through this list, finding some companies that maybe you're interested in, going to their websites and learning about the company, learning what they do and how they do it, what their values are. And then more importantly, going to their career section and seeing what kinds of opportunities they have available. This is a goldmine of ways to just start your job search right here in that list. Or maybe you use this career map to look into professional organizations and just learning more about your field, learning more about the organizations that are associated with your field. And a lot of those actually have job posting boards available on their website. So again, it's another great resource, another place to search to see if you can find opportunities. So those are just a few ways that you can use these career maps. We're super excited about them. We think it's going to be just an incredible tool for our students. And so we're excited to hear back from you about how you're able to use this resource and ways that it has helped you with your job search. So on to one of my favorite topics, job shadowing. So I'm going to start this section and just tell you the story, because I don't know of a better way to really explain what job shadowing can look like than to just tell you the story of a former student of mine. This happened a couple years ago. He came to me in April and he wanted an internship. And just given the kind of the late date and his situation, he wasn't able to find an internship for that summer. So long story short, we met several times and we were able to put together a different kind of plan for him. And that was job shadowing. So his situation was such that he had to have an income. So he got a part-time job. This was actually in Tulsa. And he got a part-time job and he worked there Monday through Thursday. And so he was able to have an income, but he reserved Fridays for job shadowing. So to back up a little bit to get that started, he really didn't even have one person. He didn't know one person to start with for job shadowing. And so I encouraged him to reach out to maybe some of his faculty members and just see if any of them had contacts or someone they would suggest that he could reach out to. And sure enough, one of them did and gave him a name. So he reached out to this person and introduced himself and, just asked if it might be possible for him to sit with this person at his job and just observe and maybe ask questions and learn from him more about what he does. And that worked out. And so that first Friday, he sat with this person, I think for a couple of hours, took notes and, really soaked in all that he could learn from this person. And at the end, of course, he thanked him and asked if he knew of anyone else that he might suggest that the student could observe or sit with. And of course, this person had a suggestion or two. And so my student pursued those. And long story short, he spent the whole summer just sitting with people, shadowing, and learning so much about different positions. And what I really loved about it, is that he didn't just limit it to positions that he was actually interested in. He was able to do that for sure, but, he sat with people that did things that maybe it wasn't for him, but it taught him something about business. And this is where that business insight really comes into play. Through that process, he sat with a wide variety of people in different positions, different departments, different companies, different types of industries. And he really got a great understanding of the big picture of business, but then all the different departments and pieces of what makes an organization work well. He just gained so much understanding. And not only was that understanding helpful to him when he then started to interview and he was able to talk about business and talk about what he had learned and what he had experienced, but I just know that experience, that summer that he spent shadowing, that's going to be an understanding that will benefit him in his career from here on out. Beyond that, it allowed him to build a really great section of his resume. It, again, allowed him to interview really well. It gave him clarity on what his career path was going to be. He happened to not have a real clear picture of what he wanted to do. So this really helped him narrow down what he loved and the path that he wanted to pursue. So lots of great things that come from job shadowing. It's a great experience. It's one that doesn't get used a lot, I think, by our students, but if you have any questions about that, any of our career coaches would be glad to visit with you and help you brainstorm and think about what that could look like. And one of the great things about it is it's flexible. It can be summer, but it's also something that you could do while you're in classes. It could be something you do over winter break or spring break. It's just a flexible tool that you can make fit into your schedule and into your plan, whatever that is. That does lead us kind of to the question, though, now, what does job shadowing look like while most companies are working remotely? You kind of have to make it your own. I actually met with a student just yesterday, and we came up with a plan for him. And so he is going to make another appointment with me next week, and we're going to brainstorm a list of questions that he can ask. And he's brainstorming a list of people that he can reach out to. So for right now, those conversations for him will take place over Zoom or over the phone, but eventually, things will start coming back to normal and he can kind of transition that into maybe in-person meetings at some point, but he's not going to wait for that to happen. He is figuring out a way to make that happen now. And again, we're going to brainstorm some great questions for him to ask that are just conversation starters, and he will be able to learn and he'll be able to build a network and do different things. So again, it's a very flexible, adaptable tool that you can really make work for you. Next is training, certifications, and self-development. So LinkedIn Learning, we're back to LinkedIn again. LinkedIn Learning, this is just a screenshot of some of the different courses that you can take on LinkedIn. So there are hundreds out there. It is just a goldmine for ways to improve yourself and ways to learn things that you don't know. I've got another story that I'd like to share with you now, just real quickly. I had the opportunity to have a conversation with one of our recruiters earlier in the semester, and he was talking about how important it is for him to see technical skills on a resume. And he primarily hires finance students. So it's not a major that we typically see a technical skills section on, but he was talking about how important it is for him to see those technical skills on a resume. And, you know, when I asked him what kinds of technical skills he was talking about that he wanted to see, he said it's not about seeing a specific skill. It's just about seeing the ability to learn technical skills. He just wants to see that element on a resume. You know, and if it's something like some kind of programming language or anything like that, he said he doesn't care what it is, because if he hires you, he's going to teach you what he wants you to know. But he wants to be able to look at your resume and see that you have that ability. So I thought that was really interesting to hear that directly from a recruiter. And he even said something, you know, he kind of took it a step further, and he said occasionally, once in a while, he'll come across a resume and it will have some technical skill, and in parentheses next to it, it will have something along the lines of self-taught. And he said he particularly loves to see that, because that tells him that that candidate not only pursued technical skills, but he did it on his own. And like, he was able to recognize that need for those technical abilities, and he had the motivation and the drive to seek that learning out on his own outside of the classroom. So I just thought that was great insight that recruiter offered to me, and I pass that on to students as often as I can, because I think that says a lot. But, you know, it doesn't have to be technical skills. When you're considering what kind of course to take or certification to pursue, you know, you can think about what your strengths are, what you have to offer, and maybe what some of your weaknesses are and ways that you can enhance that. Or you could bring up your resume and look at your resume. You know, if you didn't take the opportunity to pursue leadership roles while you were at OSU, maybe you go on and you find some type of leadership course or some type of soft skills course and get some training in that. And you can add that to your resume and add that to your skill set and really just sharpen maybe some of the things that you're not as comfortable with to make yourself, again, just more marketable and to broaden your skill set. So earlier I shared a quote by Jeffrey Moss, who is the CEO and founder of Parker Dewey, and I mentioned that we would come back to that. So OSU has just very recently, just in the last few weeks, partnered with Parker Dewey on micro internships. So I've pulled up a shot of what one of those opportunities looks like. So you would go on and register and fill out information about yourself and add your resume, and then you'd be able to go on and look at these opportunities that are posted on here. So they seem to be just projects, but they are, you know, just from a wide variety of opportunities and backgrounds and skill sets. If you notice over on the left, it's got dates associated with it. It's got an estimated amount of time that this project would take. And then it's got the amount that you would be paid for doing it. So it's our understanding that you would apply to that, and Parker Dewey would facilitate that selection process. This is so new to us that we haven't actually talked to a student yet who's been able to get one of these projects, but we're excited about that. We think this has got so much potential. Again, speaking of flexibility with job shadowing, this is an opportunity that allows you to grow and gain great experience, make a little bit of money, but do it on your own schedule. This doesn't have to be a summer thing. This is something you could pursue during the summer, but you could also pursue while you're in classes or over breaks or whatever. So lots of opportunity there to get great experience and have more content to talk about when you're in interviews, and to apply just to your career, the knowledge and understanding and experience that you could gain this way. And then finally, our resources. So this is a resource page that we have on our website. So this is on the Easton Center website. It's part of our mentoring program page. And this is just a collection of books and podcasts and TED Talks that we've put together. Really, Abby has put together, but we've thrown a couple extra things on there. So This is all just great ways that you can learn and grow, whether you are a reader or you prefer to listen to podcasts or watch TED Talks, however you learn best. These are just some resources that we feel like are powerful and helpful and would allow you to grow in some way. We hear back from our students really regularly that they're asked the question in an interview, what's the last book you've read, or what's some type of professional development that you've pursued on your own. So being able to reference some of this information or some of these books or podcasts or TED Talks in answer to that question would be really powerful. And even if you're not asked that specific question, just being able to refer back to a book you've read on professional development or podcasts that you listen to in one of your answers in an interview situation, that's going to be really impressive to the interviewer. It's just, again, it's another way to stand out. Networking, revisiting networking again. I'm just going to hit on a couple of the ideas as far as networking that we haven't talked about in other boot camp sessions. So many ways to network, even online. One thing I would encourage you to do is just sit down and make a list of connections. And so whatever that is for you. So maybe it's family, friends, maybe it's a former teacher or a professor from OSU, maybe it's the parent of some of your friends, whatever that is, just make a list of connections and then think through how you can use those connections. So maybe it's reaching out about shadowing like we talked about earlier. Maybe there's somebody on your list that really stands out to you that you would gain value from asking them to be a mentor to you. Just think through this list of people and then think through how you can use them. But I did want to talk about one other thing about networking. As much as we talk about networking, I'd just like to remind students that networking really should be a two-way street. It's not just what those people offer to you, it's what you can do for them. So maybe that looks like, you have a conversation with somebody and they talk about a position that's available at their company and it's not a fit for you, but you happen to have a friend who is interested in that type of role and you're able to connect them. I had an appointment with a student earlier this week and we were talking about this exact thing, and he's a sports management student, and we were talking about, just building connections with his former high school football coaches and some of the marketing and media team at a local community college in his hometown, and we were talking about establishing those connections. And I said, make sure it's a two-way street. If you're visiting with your high school coach and learning about his career and his contacts and stuff, and he happens to mention that, the field needs work, offer to go help him. Make sure that you're pouring into these people that you're reaching out to and that it's a two-way street. That's really what networking is all about. And then finally, the question that we've been asked a lot in our field, it's a question I think on a lot of people's mind, and that is, should you take a job that maybe is not exactly what you had in mind? Maybe it's not what you planned on being your first entry-level job, but given the situation in our world right now, should you kind of adjust and expand your expectations to accept a job right now when it comes along? And really, there's so many factors that play into that only you can be the judge of, truly. A big one of those is financial. That's going to dictate whether or not you have the ability to wait for something better to come along. But our general stance in the Easton Center is for you to just take the opportunity to pursue things, even if it's not exactly what you want to do. And maybe that means it's with a company that you're interested in, but not the exact role that you wanted. And maybe it's just a way to get your foot in the door for right now. Or maybe it is something, again, outside of what you expected, but it's a way to gain a new skill set that can come into play later. Abby mentioned in one of her presentations earlier that volunteering or figured out a way that you can give back. Maybe it's pursuing a job in a nonprofit for right now, and just adapting to this time in our world where there's a lot of people out there who need some help. And so you figure out a way to use your background to help people, even if it's not exactly what you had planned for your career path. And really that leads us into another article that I've read recently, and the title of that article is "Should You Wait for the Right Job or Should You Accept Any Job?" And there is a great quote I want to share with you out of that. I'm talking about maybe doing something that wasn't exactly what you expected to do. And it says, explain to a potential employer how you've made the step to the side or back a challenge for yourself. What have you learned? What did you contribute? How else did you continue to learn and grow during this time? I think it's less about the path you choose or have to choose right now. It's more about how you tell your story. So one way to think of that is envisioning yourself in an interview 2 months down the road or 6 months down the road or whatever that is. And what story do you want to be able to tell about what you've done with this time? And think about how great that would be to be able to talk about trainings that you pursued, to be able to add to your skill set, or courses that you took, or job shadowing, networking, things that you did, maybe taking a job that wasn't exactly what you wanted to do, but you were able to learn from it. So really that sums up everything that we've talked about today, just thinking ahead and the story that you want to be able to tell that potential employer in a few months. Start building that story now. So with that, we will kick to any questions and answers you have. And if you choose to join us tomorrow, we will be back here at the regular time at 2 o'clock, and we would be happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.